Well, hey there, Luskatiers. Welcome back to the podcast.
Welcome.
Jennie and Levi Lusko reporting for duty. Someone was just telling me a story about a colonel and they called him a full colonel. And it made me laugh because I realized that is an actual title in the military.
A full colonel?
Full colonel as opposed to like a half colonel, quarter colonel. So I was just thinking within the podcast world, we don't have ranks and designation to give out, but I would like to be an eighth of a colonel in the podcast
But can we
world.
talk about colonel and how it's spelled and how it should not be said colonel?
It does
It's
feel
colonel.
like an inappropriate amount of L's and O's for what could be easily a Kernel sort of an affair.
Yeah.
I think that's the
colonel.
French we have to thank for that. Although
Colonel.
Cologne, France is not Corone, Corone, France, right?
Yeah, I don't know, but
Yeah, we're gonna have to look into that.
colonel.
Feels like, what else comes to mind when you think of like inappropriately spelled words? I feel like as we're helping Lennox along with words, we're often coming to words that he's like, yeah, but why is that? And we're like, actually, I don't know, son.
I know.
Just go with it because that's
like-
how it is.
Today it was like, oh, kitten and cat. They both start with C. It's like, oh no, sorry, buddy.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Kitten and cat.
Uh-huh.
Hard K, hard C.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
There have been some things where it's like, yeah, that really doesn't sound like it should say. Like, or it doesn't look the way it should. I don't know.
Like centipede isn't centipede, but cat is.
Or like
Not sat.
how you say the A or the O or it is very strange.
Everyone says that English is a particularly difficult language to get
Mhm.
around, right? Especially at the beginning. Okay, we got some data. It is European. The written form of the word colonel and the spoken colonel with a K were both being used. So it was a colonel at one point. In English, a combination won out. So colonel was spelled Colonel, but still pronounced colonel. So
I don't feel like that gave me any more clarity.
like a kernel of popcorn was at one point a military designation.
Mm.
And the colonel, what was the other way to say that? Pronounced. But so it ended up being spelled colonel, but pronounced colonel.
Confusing.
Yeah, right. I
But
mean,
a
welcome
full
to the
colonel.
world. Full
in
colonel
contrast to a half colonel.
or a quarter colonel. What are the other kinds of colonel besides just
Not yet
full?
developed colonel.
Yeah, like so. What is a non-full colonel? Oh, full bird colonel. Okay, as opposed to. Yeah, like write in full colonel and then write as opposed to. Yeah. Oh, it's as opposed to general. Or as opposed to colonel. Okay, so it's a colonel with bird, full bird, and colonel without full bird.
What?
Colonels are sometimes referred to as full colonels or bird colonels.
Or
Because lieutenant colonels are also referred to as colonels, but they don't have the bird. So therefore, they don't get the colonel's pay grade. So it differentiates a colonel and a lieutenant colonel. I mean, that's a lot to think
it's all
about.
dependent on a bird.
I like full bird colonel. Like
Mhm.
I like that someone's rank is indicated by like the presence of the totality of an animal, right? That feels very like warrior to me.
It does.
It's
It really
very
does.
nice.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that is not what this episode is about. In fact, we have a very special episode today. Jennie and I are going to do our best for any single listeners of Hey Luskos. Let's call you a single Luskatier.
Mm.
And any parent who has teenagers, we are in that club. Or if you have single friends and you're in a place where you're like, hey man, they need to know how to date people.
Hey, man.
And or who to date and or what should be the criteria with which someone should move along in the journey.
Yes.
Here's where this is all coming from. We have experienced God's greatness in our life, in our love story.
Mm-hmm.
And Jennie and I both feel strongly about sharing some of the wealth of our experience, God's goodness in us, and also some of the principles that have become apparent to us in, teaching through God's plan for relationships year after year after year, going back to 2004.
When we got married.
Correct.
Not
So
when we met.
No, I did. I did our first summer after that. Remember?
Oh, okay.
So the first time I really preached on God's plans for relationships were in 2004.
Right.
And from then till now, these 19 years, we have continued to carry this message. Hey, God's got a plan for your love life. God's got a plan for sex, dating, relationships. And I would say, I mean, longer than we have been doing a podcast,
Yeah.
longer than we've been pastors at Fresh Life Church,
Mm-hmm.
longer than we've been doing almost anything. We've been fighting for people to know God has amazing plans for sex.
Yeah.
And so we thought today we would do two things. We would begin by telling our love story. And then next week's episode, we would try and boil down some principles. So this is going to be a two-parter. I don't even know when the last time was we had a two-parter.
Have we even ever had a
Oh, yeah. You
two-parter?
don't remember Carrie and Cody's
Two-parter?
episode? We did a two-parter with Carrie and Cody. Remember it got so long?
Oh.
The first time they were on, we split them up into a two-parter.
Okay.
So we did Carrie Cody part 1, and we did Carrie Cody part 2.
I do not even remember that.
You know what's weird? I remember where I was exactly the day we listened to that episode because it released, and I was like, oh, we should make sure it sounds good. And we listened to it. We were leaving the grocery store in Jackson Hole, Wyoming as a family, and we put it on and listened to it a little bit to quality control it.
Gosh.
That would have
I
been
don't even remember
2020?
that.
Would have been 2020.
I don't think I was there on that trip.
You were there. I remember you were sitting right next to me at my side.
At the grocery store?
Yeah, grocery store. The market, Mercado.
Okay.
Okay, so listen. You and I are going to do this. Are you excited?
Yes.
Are you here for it?
I'm here for it.
All right, listeners, we're excited that you're here for it as well. So
How?
today's goal is to share our love story. So this episode is going to be called Jennie and Levi Lusko, a love story. No, it's not going to be called that.
Jennie plus Levi equals forever.
That's exactly what this episode, now take with a grain of salt. We're recording this episode number 114 of Hey Luskos, the day before Valentine's Day. So love, as they say, is in the air. And we are in a relationship series as a church community at Fresh Life. It's called I Think I Love You.
Mhm.
So that's kind of working its way into this whole thing. But we thought, man, we can't let Hey Luskos be left out. We've talked a lot about marriage in this podcast, but we haven't talked as much about dating. And I don't think we've ever just sat down and recorded our story.
Yeah.
So today we're going to tell you a story. It's a story about a boy and a girl. It's a love story.
Mm-hmm.
And then next week, we're going to try and glean some principles, some from ours, some from scripture, both hopefully that will be helpful
Mm-hmm.
to you if you're dating, if you're looking to get married. And we will preface all of that next week when we get to it with the reality that we haven't dated anybody for the first time in almost 2 decades.
Golly.
So
True.
we don't want to like make people think that it's
This
fresh,
is how you do
that
it.
it's fresh in our minds, or this is how you
Oh,
do
I
it
see what you're
exactly
saying.
in 2023.
Yeah,
Because there are
yeah.
some
It's
unique
different.
pitfalls, right?
Yeah.
The world's changed a touch.
It has changed.
Okay, so we're going to dive into it in a moment, but real quickly, some housekeeping. If you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel, to the podcast, if you're just scooping in, scooping out, listening, but not subscribing, hey, we get it. They told me something interesting yesterday, Jennie.
Oh, who's
Are
they?
you ready for it? Our producer of our podcast, his name's Jeremy.
The people.
Maybe you've met him. JJ, we like to call him, Jeremy Jackson. He was telling me, he said, hey, put your brain in this file. He didn't say that. You know what he said next? He said, Levi, do you know that 95% of people who listen to your podcast haven't subscribed yet?
Whoa.
I said, I didn't know that, but I do now, and I'm freaked out by that information.
Sheesh.
Only 5% of you have gone full Lusketeer, full bird Lusketeers.
Full bird.
You know, the full bird is where you've subscribed. You don't want to be one of those quarter bird, 18% bird Lusketeers, right?
Full bird.
You need to get you some subscribe.
Yes.
Then we can be like a YouTube official.
Come on.
So if you're listening on podcast,
Subscribe.
if you listen on Spotify,
If you listen, you love us.
and you just every once in a while come down and see if it's good before you want to commit. If you're basically in a situationship with us, but you're not subscribed, today's the day for you to become a full bird Lusketeer.
Today's the day.
Hit that subscribe button. And or don't. You know, honestly, I don't even care. Look at that. As I said that, my microphone started drooping. Do you see that? Look at that saddle microphone.
Honestly.
It's like I got judged for being indifferent.
Wow.
So he said, Levi, you should remind the people.
Well,
And listen, I mean to say, I don't do that every.
Subscribe.
We don't do all that every video. Every time you watch YouTube, someone's turning around trying to get you to subscribe. When was the last time you heard me say hit that bell? Okay, look, I don't think you should hit the bell. I don't think you need notifications on anyone's YouTube channel.
Do you subscribe to anybody?
Oh, tons of them. I love YouTube.
I don't know if I subscribe to anything.
Jennie, I'm going to break something to you. You
I don't even have
a
own
YouTube account. You're logged into mine and you're oblivious and happy. Okay? That's why you have such good sleep at night. You don't need all that.
I only had 75% last night.
Is that true?
Yeah, but I slept for a long time. It just wasn't quality, I guess.
You know why? Nachos. We were eating all those Super Bowl nachos.
True.
Yeah, all right. Okay, Jennie. Start at the beginning.
Go.
Let's tell our love story.
Once upon a time. Well, where do you want to start?
Beginning.
I mean, at the
We're
very
at the
beginning.
Let's start at the ending. We got married.
We got married.
That's not the end of our love story. Our love story continues to this present moment. Here we are.
This is the ending.
We're basking in it.
The ending is us being old.
All right. Picture a really old, crazy couple. One of them's wearing a bathrobe and has a funny look in his eye. That's me.
What am I doing?
The roses. But we don't have roses. Plot twist. Jennie's crazy. Okay. So the love story that's continuing. But let's start at the moment of I do.
And go backwards?
Yeah, the backwards. I mean, no.
No.
You're going to start right there. Then you're going to jump and anchor it. And then you're going to move back forwards. Like a movie where you see a glimpse of how it ends. And then you go back to the beginning.
Okay. So an old couple.
No.
Gray hair everywhere.
No, sweetie.
Oh.
Start at I do.
Oh.
We're standing there outside.
Okay.
It's April 16th.
It's April 16th. It's a Friday.
2004.
2 days before, no, 6 days after Easter that year. So we got married after Easter. And we're outside. You're standing there with Pastor Skip Heitzig. Your dad is your best man. And some other guys. And I'm walking down the aisle.
And you came down the aisle to, I can only imagine.
Down the aisle, yep.
But not the Mercy Me edition, the Rita Springer edition.
Because I love that
Still
song.
makes my heart pound to hear that song.
My dad walked me down the aisle.
Sure did.
And we're standing there. And a friend of ours said a prayer.
I started crying.
Like immediately when you saw me?
Immediately.
Oh.
I'd already cried many times that day. It's very emotional.
Hmm.
I was very excited and very aware of the goodness of God.
Hmm.
I had spent time that morning journaling and driving around. And in my journaling and my driving around and in my emotional state, I was aware of God's grace in you as a gift. And I knew I didn't deserve you because you were such a good gift that came down from the Father of Lights. And I remember on the radio, there was this song, Hallelujah, Grace Like Rain by Todd Agnew.
Oh, yeah.
And it was playing. And as I was kind of driving around in a haze, emotional, I was singing that song with the windows down. And I just was overcome by how good God was to give me such a good gift as a partner and friend and co-laborer with you. You know, Adam had to name the animals and rule the world by himself, but God gave him Eve to help him rule the world. And there's things that God, has set me over and that he would allow me to do it with you. I was flat out floored.
Wow, babe.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it was such an emotional day for you.
I've told you that story though, right?
Well, I know parts of that, but I just didn't realize that it was like
I was just
so
emotional. I was aware.
And because we didn't see each other until I walked down the aisle. Because
first time I saw you all day.
Nowadays, there's the first look where, which is kind of cool, but we didn't do that. We didn't have Pinterest when we got married. So I literally had a binder with all the things that I like clipped out of magazines and whatever. But
we had the not.com that told us how many days till our wedding.
That's true. That is true.
We were digital in some regards.
In some ways.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember that morning you gave me flowers and a card through my dad or through my brother.
Through your best maid of honor.
Oh, okay. So my sister or Stacia?
Might have been your dad.
Anyways.
But I gave you flowers that morning and a card.
That's so sweet. Like I honestly don't even remember much of that. I know I woke up and like had my quiet time and read my Bible, and I think I went to IHOP with my bridesmaids, and then we just immediately like started getting ready. I don't know. I'm sure I wrote it down somewhere. I probably should have read it before we talked about this.
All right. So I'm crying. I'm watching you walk down the altar. I took a mental picture of that moment.
Aisle.
What did I say?
Altar.
Coming towards the altar down the aisle.
I'm just walking on the altar.
Walking on an altar. It's a Greek family tradition. We've been doing it for years. We dance on the tables. What was emotional to me and was beautiful to me about this was just you look like an angel. You're wearing white. Just gorgeous. You had your hair up, your makeup was done beautifully. And I took this picture because my boss at the time told me, you should take a picture of your wife walking down the aisle. And then every time.
In your mind.
No, I had a Polaroid. Yes, in my mind. Of course.
Just clarifying.
With my peepers. That's what I call my eyes. Good thing it was all those years ago, because my left one's not working so good these days.
No.
Yeah, it's going down, man. That firework is having its revenge.
It is.
I had a real good run with it where it just got better and better, and now it's deteriorating because I got this cataract. And so when I don't know if you notice this, when I preach, I have to hold my Bible on the right side now because I can't see out of the left side, but I'm so scared to get that cataract surgery.
Oh, babe.
But I'm going to do it. So I'm going to look at you out of my good side so I can drink you in out of this side.
But the other day you were looking at me through your bad eye, and I was like,
could you tell?
You're choosing to look at me through your bad eye.
If I look at you through my left eye, you look 20 years younger. It's a very forgiving look. It blurs everything out.
You really remember me on that day because you're just imagining.
Young Jennie? I've been flashing back to our wedding. No, so, but your brain does a good thing because if I look at you straight on, my brain just kind of does
connects the dots.
A median income sort of a thing. It takes both eyes, kind of washes them together, and I don't notice it until I only see something on my left eye. Okay, so I'm going to get that fixed one of these days. I'll get in there and let them do some tinkering with my eyeball, but I'm nervous about it. Okay,
yeah.
So any of you Luskatiers who have had a cataract surgery, you're going to have to let me know why I should or shouldn't be nervous about that. The thing that makes me nervous is they said that I should do both eyes. My right eye doesn't need it. But they said because I wear contacts in both eyes, once I get my left eye done, I won't need a contact anymore.
Right.
But then I will have to be just putting one contact in daily. And so they were like, look, you should just get both of them done. But then I'm like, why do I want to operate on a perfectly good not working eye? I mean, not working because I've had to wear contacts. So I guess it's not perfectly working.
Yeah. And that's essentially a laser surgery for you.
Kind of, but then
you wouldn't have to wear glasses or contacts.
But the thing I don't like is that they said then you have to kind of pick which eye you want for far distance, which one you want for close, because you can't really do both with one.
Oh,
whatever lens they put on it.
If
I put one eye for far, one eye for close, I feel like that's really going to mess up my depth perception for tennis.
Just sounds like a headache, like
waiting to happen, right?
Yeah.
My brain will probably get used to it eventually, but
yeah,
can't be worse than right now where I can't see out of my left eye very well. Look, that's not the point of this story, people.
Yes.
We're talking about a man and a woman. Well,
okay,
a boy and a girl.
You were saying.
I took a picture of you in my eye, my good eye, and I memorized it because he said there's going to come a day when Jennie's, telling you to take the trash out and you have attitude because you don't want to because you're sitting on the couch doing something. And
or she has a stinky attitude.
Yeah, you come home from work and she's mad at you or something. He said, on that day, you're going to need that picture in your mind so that you can treat her on her worst day like she looks on her best day. And if you hang on to that picture and you just keep treating her no matter how she's treating you or how things are going, like that girl deserves to be treated walking down the aisle, you're going to be all right.
That's
and
amazing.
I've probably told that to 100 grooms, maybe more.
Wow. Before
they walk down the aisle. Take that picture. Because, I see a lot of couples at the weddings making the mistake of just kind of looking around, looking at everybody they haven't seen for 20 years, at the wedding. No, you just got to be laser focused. Make sure you're drinking that in,
Yeah.
You're not married to anybody else. You're just marrying that one person.
And someone told me to keep my eyes fixed on you going down the aisle and just to see, like, just to lock eyes with you.
Good. It's like in Song of Solomon, you have dove's eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Doves don't have peripheral vision. They only can focus on one thing. If a dove's looking at you, it's only looking at you. And that's what you want inside your marriage. I don't have eyes for other people. I just got eyes for you. So that's where we're going to begin. Now back it up. Back that thing up. We met, of course, in the midst of our internship, your internship.
My internship.
Yep. I'm the assistant youth pastor. What led you to take that step of faith and do the internship?
So I originally became aware of this internship when I was, 16. I went on a mission trip with this organization from this church, from Calvary of Albuquerque, when I was 17, but I had heard about it when I was 16 from a friend. And I decided to go to Nicaragua for a month and was just changed, like just loved being immersed in a way from home for that long, but also getting to see God move in a different country. And we were at an orphanage, and it was just beautiful. And getting to see what God's doing in another country was incredible. And at that point, I heard about the internship, but I was about to be a junior in high school. So I still had, like, I think the internship was like 18 to 25 or something like that. So I still had a few years, but that was something I was just like, I want to do that. Regardless of what I do with the rest of my life, like, I really want to move to New Mexico, spend a year just serving God however he wants me to serve him. And so that was like the little seed. And then I still had 2 years of high school. I also went to Thailand with Lifeline Missions, with that same organization. And then after that summer, I moved to New Mexico. So that would have been 2001. And you simultaneously, you were in New Mexico at that time. But when I had moved to New Mexico, you were living in England.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we had both, interestingly enough, done mission trips at the same time, but they're never together.
Mm-hmm.
And we had never met during that era.
Like, I had heard of you. Like, when I went to Nicaragua, I went with a girl who was friends with you, and I remember her mentioning. But I think you went to Sri Lanka that summer or something, or no, India,
Nepal.
So
we had been on short-term mission trips around the same time, and though we had never met, then later on we ended up dating because we had grown up across the country from each other, different states, different churches, and never met. But then through God's providence, we ended up doing mission trips with the same organization. And then we meet. The one time we'd met, we were both dating other people who were dating, who were brother and sister.
Yes.
So you and I were potentially on a track to become brother and sister-in-law, which is so weird. That you would be my sister-in-law. It's because my girlfriend's brother's girlfriend is you.
Yes.
We meet one time under those circumstances, though I don't remember.
You don't remember it, but I do.
You do.
I was focused
on my current girlfriend, right? It shows you I had loyalty even then. I didn't have eyes for you. So then we both break up from people who we both thought we were going to marry. I broke up with her in Bible college last semester. You broke up or got broken up with.
Yeah. And it was way earlier than that. So maybe we weren't dating at the same time because it was 2000.
And you ended up moving to New Mexico, 2001. I was going to finish Bible college, but my senior pastor encouraged me, instead of the last semester of Bible college, to come do an internship where I would serve under him. And
so you technically were an intern, just not the same internship as me.
Yeah, he called it an apprenticeship. It was not an official program. I did it for one summer. Oh, my first summer was an internship.
Oh,
Then I went
okay.
to England,
Yeah.
came back and was on staff, but as an apprentice to learn under him. And Jesus said, I think that's one really important note. I never asked for that position.
Mm-mm.
I think a lot of people, I think that where there was an application process, it's a different thing. But walking up to someone and saying, will you apprentice me? Will you mentor me?
Yeah.
I think, Jesus said to his disciples, you didn't choose me, I chose you. I think that should be how it works. That you should initiate those who you are inviting to come serve under you. So of course, an organization bringing interns in, they are initiating, right?
Right.
They're bringing an invitation in. But I think just walking up cold to someone and being like, will you mentor me? I think there should be some sense of like the energy there to serve and all that. And then someone, sees that in you and calls that out in you.
Yeah.
Which was my story. And I think those kind of cold calls for mentorship kind of ring kind of, I don't know, a little opportunistic to me to some degree. Make yourself useful, and then, someone will give you larger opportunity, right?
Yeah.
So that was kind of my plan. I was just going to keep on cruising with school and all the things. And then God kind of interrupted that with that request.
Yeah. Come
Come serve under me, learn from me. Kind of like Peter, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I guess I'm not fishing anymore. We're going to follow this guy around for a minute. But then literally I come back from England, take that job, and that's when I see you and meet you. I remember when we met. And for me, it was the first time we met because I didn't remember meeting you before.
Right.
And it was. I instantly was stopped in my tracks by you. Turning lights on. That's what I was doing. I was turning lights on.
And I was setting up
chairs. And I was like, dang, who's this girl? Jennie Yap. Jennie Yap with no Y, except for in her last name. Because you didn't spell your name Jenny.
No.
Because
I changed it.
Tell the story.
So I've always been Jennie Y with a Y. So Jennie and then Y, Yap. And when I moved to New Mexico, I was like, I'm just tired of Jennie with a Y. I want to be Jennie with an IE. And so I literally just started writing with IE. I think my mom still writes it with a Y. Your dad writes my name a bunch of different ways.
That's true.
JENI, JE and IE. I don't know, but it's very funny. Which it really doesn't matter to me. Some people call me Jeannie because it looks.
Pastor Jensen Franklin calls you Jeannie. Jeannie Lusko. Jeannie Lusko is going to come preach a fabulous message. Get on up here, Jeannie Lusko.
But I don't know. I like it. I like Jennie with an IE.
So you switched to IE, and we've recently discovered Winston Churchill's mother was Jennie with an IE. Shelley Giglio's mother, Jennie with an IE. So you're in pretty good company there.
I am.
Also, did you know Winston Churchill's mom ended up marrying someone younger than Winston Churchill?
Wow.
Yeah. His stepfather was younger than him.
Wow.
That would be uncomfortable.
I wonder how he felt about that.
I'm sure mixed, but he probably kept it to himself because those Brits, they tend to cork that stuff up.
Wow.
Stiff upper lip and all, right? Okay, so we meet, but there's a plot twist.
Plot twist is I'm in the middle of my internship.
A part of the terms of your internship was?
No romantic dating relationships.
For the duration of the internship.
Right.
And I meet you halfway through it.
Yeah.
And I had made no such commitment or oath.
Right.
I was single and looking to mingle, man. I was fresh out of this relationship and looking quickly to get into another one. I was 19 at this point.
We were 19, yeah.
19 years old. No, maybe 20.
No, well, because we met in December. Well, I think you came back home in December. You came back to New Mexico from England in December. We might have met in January. I might have been 20 and you might have been 19, but you were 19.
So here's what's interesting about this. We're both serving God. We're both pretty focused on where we're going. You were so attractive to me right away from the jump. I thought you were beautiful. I loved that you were involved in missions, wanted to serve God. I only met you in youth group where you were volunteering to serve because you were above and beyond your missions internship, also serving in the youth group. So you were making yourself available on your own time to help set up chairs so we could do youth group that night. I was the assistant youth pastor. You were there serving like with a couple other people. And I'm like, dude, who's this girl who's like by day a missionary and a nighttime serving in the church person? Like, who does that, right? You're double dipping in a crazy way. So I'm like, check Beautiful, check. Super funny and nice, check. And then I kind of realized, oh, dang. And I connect the dots that you can't date. And that to me was even more of a check. Like I was more of a positive. A, on the desire what you can't have front. B, on the, oh, this is exciting because it's going to be a drama. Like it's going to be, oh, I can't quickly get you. I'm going to have to get to watch and see this develop. So it was more of a chess than a checkers thing. I just liked all of that and disliked it immensely because of the, oh, shoot, was this, what is it? Why do I have to fall for someone who's, that was all while we were standing there at the light switches.
Really?
I mean, I kind of saw all that kind of playing out somewhat.
Wow. I just imagine you with like a Minority Report like screen in your brain, like
gloves with two fingers. I'm just moving stuff around. Future crime. You're like, what are you doing? Who is this guy?
Oh.
But what was your initial thought, or what do you recall of it?
I remember that moment. I remember that those chairs were stinking heavy. But I just remember noticing you, and I think just over the course of time, and you would come over to my office, and I mean, I was planning the trip for the youth group. So part of my job was planning trips, which is funny because
you haven't planned trips since.
Because you have a friend who's like telling us like, oh, you should do this, and plan this. And then he was like, oh, you should tell your wife that when she books this.
Yeah.
And you're like,
yep.
Jennie doesn't book anything.
Jennie, she has a Fisher Price laptop. We let her punch the keys on it, and it goes, cow goes moo. Airplane goes.
Oh, and I'm so happy with it.
Yeah, she's not taking up much room in the corner. We let her sit there. We say, Jennie, we need a trip plan, and Jennie goes beep boop bop beep boop bop boop beep, and then she hits the top of the typewriter, and I'm like, that's so good, honey. You did so great.
Oh, and then I was like, oh man, what do I do?
It's not true at all. But
so I was planning trips.
Point,
I literally, so at that point, like we would meet and talk about like details.
Talk with the travel agent back then,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And they were booking flights, and I was just trying to keep things in budget and everything like that. But one thing that I remember so clearly is in the campus that we were at, there were these volleyball courts, and I was standing in the parking lot looking across the volleyball courts, and I saw you with, I think it was Nathan Heitzig, like walking a little bit behind you, and you were like on a mission. I don't know where you were going. I don't know what you were doing, but I just remember you were walking with purpose, like wherever it was that you were going, and he was following you. And I just remember that little snapshot of just thinking like, he knows where he's going and he's walking with purpose. And I think it just dawned on me, like just the attraction of that you knew that, and you knew, and I didn't know anything really much about you, except I loved serving with you and students and in ministry. But that was, I feel like, a peek into who you are, because I didn't know that you're a visionary person with such a specific call of God on your life to keep walking and to walk with purpose. And so I remember that so distinctly, just like, oh, I like that guy.
Well, that's beautiful. And, what was neat was that we both had these initial sparks of feelings, which was somewhat confusing for me because on paper, you weren't even my type, quote unquote.
Yeah.
We'll talk more about that next week, why I think that can actually hurt us, not help us, that we have a preconceived notion. Oftentimes, people in scripture who have an idea of what God's going to do are usually confused by what comes next. We're going to take Jericho. Awesome. We're going to march around it. We're going to heal you of leprosy. Sick. We're going to dip you in that river, right? It's like, we're going to feed 5,000. Where's the Lunchable?
Right.
So, I think this idea of man plans his way, Lord directs his steps.
Yeah.
On paper, whatever I would have thought exactly was my type, it became you as pretty well as soon as we met. But there was no chance for us to begin dating because of the internship commitment / oath to the Lord Jesus Christ you had made. So all this time, and and there was plenty of times when I just wanted to just start hanging out with you one-on-one and get to know you better, but there was no option for that.
Yeah.
So all of our interactions were either professional or with mixed group.
Yeah.
And we were just in a crowd. So we made sure to kind of keep that happening, but there was always enough cover of fire that we weren't just talking to each other.
Right.
And that went on for 6 months.
Yeah.
Of amazing friendship with tremendous sense of feelings.
Yeah.
That only got stronger as time went on.
Right.
And the minute the internship ended, like the minute 11:59, midnight, it's now over. I asked you out.
You did.
I asked you if you date me, and you said,
yes.
Get out of here. No, you said yes. So I don't even like you.
I probably said okay or something like that.
But I had already at that point, unbeknownst to you, written your dad a letter asking for permission to ask you on a date. Not that he was even necessarily even, at that point involved really day to day in your life. He lived across the country, but I felt like I wanted his blessing at least to introduce myself. And so I had written him that letter.
Which is such an incredible thing. And I think so important, but rare. And like I look back and I remember when I found out about that. And even now it's just overwhelming that you would do that. Well, and really it's an honor thing because you're honoring me, you're honoring my dad who was my dad and not super involved, but involved in my life back then.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, I think that's something that I hope young men will follow after because it's just beautiful.
Well, it gave us a chance for a conversation about it. I put my number in there when I mailed it to him. It was a week later he called.
It was real mail.
Real mail.
Crazy.
With a stamp and everything. I hand wrote it. And then, he called, he said, thank you for asking, said, absolutely, you can ask her on a date. He wasn't like saying yes for you. So I still had to do the hard work of asking you out.
Right.
But I had pre-done that when I asked you out. And then we went on a date. It was a whole beautiful day.
It was.
We went to Chili's. We went to the zoo. Then I took you home. Then you got cleaned up. I got cleaned up. I took you
because we were so dirty.
A nice. Well, the zoo is a filthy place. Those hippopotamuses, you can't trust them. All the dust. Peacocks running amok. Why do they not put peacocks in cages? They're always just free roaming at the zoos, right?
I know, and they look like they're going to attack you.
Yeah,
I don't know if they do, but
I don't think so. They jump pretty high though.
Oh,
shockingly high, right? For a peacock. You got the shivers.
Mm-hmm.
So then, took you to this beautiful restaurant called Antiquity. We had steaks. We had creme brulee. We started our tradition of me coming over to sit on your side of the booth for the dessert.
I know.
Which has always been a little thing. We sit across from each other, eye to eye, and then we sit side to side for the dessert. And then it was raining when we got out of the restaurant.
Yeah.
So we had to take cover in a gazebo. And we were in this gazebo and there's rain everywhere. And we danced in the rain to music only we could hear.
I know.
That was our first date.
It's the best.
And we dated for what? 6 months?
Well, we dated it was August to December because we broke up in December.
So August, September, October, November, December. We dated 5 months.
Yeah. And then broke up.
And had a little rough patch.
Yeah.
You need a good breakup while you're dating, as far as I can tell. Get it out of the system.
Yeah. I think I don't know. I can't speak for you. I think there was maybe the sense of pursuit. And then maybe you got me and I felt like you had kind of like, like you were kind of like backing away slowly a little bit. So I was like, well, let's just not date.
You broke up with me.
Yeah.
Dang you. That's good though. It slapped me silly. It woke me up.
But it was so hard because then like all the other girl leaders in the youth group, I was like, oh, he's for sure gonna go date her or go hang out with her. Like it was so hard because I wanted to be with you.
I dated nobody.
You didn't.
I dated not one person. But I think I was scared. I had never gotten that close to someone. I started to think this is getting very real. This is getting very scary. And then I started to like see the matrix, like how many other girls are there in the world? And
Yeah.
I'm going to say yes to one and say no to every other one of them. I need to be really sure about this. And my response, my fear mechanism caused me just to pull away.
Yeah.
So instead of just being real with you and be like, hey, I'm kind of scared. What's happening?
Yeah.
I pulled away and started to wall up, started to armor up, started to become a little bit more frosty with you. And you weren't about that. You're like, hey, don't be dating me if you don't want me.
Mm-hmm.
So you kicked me to the curb. And I said to myself,
I didn't want to.
but I said to myself, she doesn't even know how good she's had it. There are lots of other girls out there in the sea. Apparently there's not. There's only mermaids in the sea. But I said to myself, there's lots of other fish. This is going to be great. This is the biggest mistake she's ever made. And then I was just sad mostly and missed you. But I thought I'm going to date lots of other girls, but I didn't want to or do that. And so I just mostly like pulled in to my little shell of sadness. And then my sister was the one who woke me up.
Mm-hmm.
She said one day, hey, you. She said, you're making the biggest mistake of your life. And we actually don't even really like you very much in our family. We like Jennie a lot more. We miss her. She's much nicer than you are. And someone else is going to start dating her and you're going to regret it. And I said to myself, that's exactly correct.
Hmm.
And so I didn't do anything right away because I didn't want to do anything rash. But I began to pray about it. And I decided that I would only ask you to date me again if it was with the intention of moving towards marriage. Not like I was going to get married to you the next day.
Right.
But I said, I'm only going to ask her. I'm not going to play games with her this time. I'm going to work all that out. So I think I took another, week or two, maybe a little bit more. And when did I actually ask you to date me again?
Well, because I remember having my birthday dinner. So it was January 11th, 2003 or something like that. Yeah. And I remember you came and it was like all of the other interns who were still living in Albuquerque and some other leaders and friends in our lives. And I remember you came that night to have dinner. And then I think it was like a week later that we went on that hike.
Yeah. I took you up to the foothills.
Mm-hmm.
We hiked up to the top and I asked you to date me again.
On a rock.
On a rock. In earnest.
Mm-hmm.
But this time I said it's with the intention of moving us towards marriage if that's what God has for us.
Yeah.
But guys tend to have this like what we can't have, we want. And once we sort of quote unquote get it, there's a sense of like, the trophies on the wall, right? So that's, I'm not saying that's good, nor how we should see women, but that's how I felt internally.
Yeah.
And I think so there was this sense of, fear that kicked in with all that and insecurity and, compound that out over the lifetime of little nicks and wounds we all accumulate. Right.
Right.
So that was my own trauma kind of coming up.
Yeah.
Not even necessarily having to do exclusively with you.
Right.
So throughout that dating for the next 6 months, it was more focused.
Because that was January or February.
And then I proposed in the fall.
In October. Yeah.
So I asked you to marry me after we'd been dating for about a year, minus the month that we were broken up.
Yeah.
So then we get married 6 months later.
In April, 6 months after.
Exactly 6 months after we got engaged.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good length for an engagement for us.
Yeah.
I felt like it was right. Gave us the time that we needed to really enjoy being a fiance.
Yeah.
It's easy to rush through a phase that you only get one of if you do it right.
Yeah. True.
So we enjoyed that 6 months. I loved being engaged. It was exciting. It gave us a chance to prepare.
I remember our it's not slogan, but our like saying was enjoy the process.
Yes. And not yet. Not no, but not now.
Yes.
How many times we had to say that when we wanted to make out? Not no, but not now.
Mm-hmm.
Don't awaken love until it's time.
Yeah.
Because we wanted to, let's just wait till we get married. We'll have all married life to have sex. Why don't we just wait and not have sex while we're engaged, right?
Yeah.
Not only because it'd be a sin, but also just it would ruin the chance for us to continue to trust and continue to wait.
Yeah.
So we built that on that relationship. Not that it was easy or that it didn't involve many, A, close calls, and B, just
Accountability.
divine intervention of us fighting for other people to be around while we were dating, right?
Yeah.
And then we get married. Well, we're back to this moment of standing there at the altar, about to say I do,
Yeah.
having no clue what was to come.
No.
Church plans, books, children, tragedy, pleasure and pain, blessing and blood.
But how beautiful is that when you commit to marrying someone and you say, for rich or for poor, in sickness and in health, to love and to cherish till death do us part, not knowing. I mean, if we did know what was to come, I mean,
I would still choose us.
I would too, but like, it wouldn't, you talked about that this weekend, but the mystery, like, there doesn't need to be the confusion. There shouldn't be the confusion of, should I marry him? Should I not? But there is always going to be a mystery, and that is the life of faith that we get to live before God and before each other. But just thinking how we said, I do. And now looking back almost 19 years and seeing the fruit of saying I do and committing to preferring one another and honoring each other and loving and laughing and living and giving and grieving and all the things, like, it's just so sweet and
been
so
wonderful.
beautiful. And I'm so thankful for you.
Oh, sweetheart, I love you too. And I think that's, we've experienced every one of those words: richer, poorer, better and worse, and sickness and health and life and death and all of it. God's been faithful, and we've been able to do exponentially more together, I think, than we could have done alone. And the verse that we put on our wedding invitations, and the verse that's kind of been a banner for us, is that verse from Ecclesiastes 3, that God makes everything beautiful in its time.
Yeah.
And I think we both so much want to not only live out of the power of that truth for our lives as we built on Jesus, just like when I asked you to date me again, it was on a rock. We wanted to build our life on the rock. And I really do believe if you build your home on a rock, and then you understand your role in that, to submit and to serve and to love and to live a life of worship, there's nothing that this world or the gates of hell can throw against that home that can destroy it.
Yeah.
And we've been sweetened by trials, and we've been developed by difficulty, and we've found traction in the most unimaginable circumstances. And it's been a joy, so I love our love story.
Me too.
Love what God's done through us. And I'm so grateful that God, in his kindness, allowed you to be my wife and that I would get to be your man. And I think that I can't wait to see what happens when we are full bird Lusketeers, 50 years from now, crazy as all get out, but just continuing to have fun together.
Yes. Me too. Beautiful.
Well, next week on the podcast, we will take this story. Thank you for still listening, if you're still there. And we'll try and kind of like, hey, what from our journey do we see that maybe was what we did right?
Yeah.
Some of it intentionally, some of it accidentally, that we can serve up in doggy bags that could be helpful as principles, not prescription. We're not trying to give you, hey, here's the 3 steps to baking cookies and you can have a marriage that lasts.
Right.
But there are really some things that we did do well and did do right that can be helpful to those who are approaching the madness of dating in 2023. And we're going to do that next week.
Love it. It's going to be good.
Thanks, babe.
Thank you. Love you.